Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. This country has recorded its 13th positive COVID-19 case. A release from the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, said the new positive COVID-19 case reported by the Caribbean Public Health Agency, CAFRA, today remains under investigation. However, no information was provided as to whether it is an imported case, as has been stated with the previously announced cases. The news release, however, pointed out that the new case of COVID-19 serves as a reminder about the importance of maintaining the public health measures currently in place, which include hand hygiene, cough etiquette, physical distancing of at least 3 to 6 feet in public spaces, and strict adherence to quarantine and isolation. These measures, the release said, are vital to slow the spread of COVID-19 in SVG. The results from CAFRA today also reported 6 more negative COVID-19 cases. One of the negative results provided medical clearance and confirms this country's third recovered COVID-19 case. With these new results, the country now has 10 active COVID-19 cases of the total 13 confirmed cases. Schools across SVG will remain closed for an additional 2 weeks pending a review of the COVID-19 situation in the country. This is according to Minister of Education Sinclair Jimmy Prince. Minister Prince told SVG-TV News via a telephone interview today that officials from his ministry and the Ministry of Health met, and it was decided that schools should remain closed as the COVID-19 situation remains fluid, and that additional measures will have to be put in place to ensure the safety and health of all teachers and students before they return to their respective classrooms.
To suspend the reopening of schools for another 2 weeks. And this is to make sure that most things are put in place to ensure the safest possible environment for our children and, of course, for our teachers. We're trying to do that. We've started that already, but we have to redouble our efforts in that regard before we can talk about opening schools. We have to assess the adequacy and the functionality of bathrooms. We like to look at running water, stations for washing of hands, etc. If we have to put in new sinks, additional facilities, we have to do that. We are continuing to talk to our janitors to make sure that they are up to speed with the required sanitization standards and so on. Normally these janitors will just go into school and just sweep out. We have to talk about sanitizing the door handles, desktops, etc., all of that. We have to train them to do. We have started that and we will continue to do so. And we want to bring them up to speed.
The Education Minister also noted that some teachers are undergoing training to administer online teaching with the help of telecommunications company Digicel.
It's a new phenomenon, and we have to start from scratch in a number of areas. But I'm happy that the teachers are coming on stream with this one. Today, a number of teachers will begin training with Digicel to use the Microsoft Team platform just for the delivery to students. Of course, a number of other schools are using different platforms. Some of them are even using WhatsApp to get the information to students and to engage students to do online learning while school is out. So, yes, within the next week or two, we continue to review what is happening, to reassess and to ensure that the environment is safe and that we can open school. But immediately, school will remain closed until that time.
Minister Prince is advising parents, guardians and principals to work together to continue the education drive in SVG, and said parents should keep regular contact with teachers as they should be readily available to assist with their children's work during this difficult time.
Because there's a lot of information that we put online. If you find there is a problem, please call your school, call your principal, your teacher of a particular subject. Make sure you remain engaged. Don't just leave it up to the students. I'm talking now to the parents. Ensure that the students are online, that if they don't have the devices, call the school, see what kind of mechanism could be put in place to get around that. In the meantime, of course, Larissa, we're waiting on the devices. We will order very, very soon, maybe within the next day or two, almost 30,000 tablets for the students of both primary and secondary schools. We're trying to put some emphasis, of course, on those who are going to do exams. That's the Form 5 and the grade 6s. But we would be getting tablets for everybody. So in the meantime, we expect that teachers and parents to be creative.
Incoming president of the SVG Teachers Union, Oswald Robinson, welcomes the online educational initiatives undertaken by the Ministry of Education, as well as the further 2 weeks extension for schools to remain closed. Robinson, however, told SVG-TV News that he is of the view that schools should remain closed for the remainder of the school term, as physical distancing has to be practiced and bearing in mind water rationing given the drought conditions.
I would suggest that just now is June and July. Holidays would start in July and August. So I would propose that we continue with the e-learning, keep monitoring that, make sure we keep the students. We have to bear in mind what CXC is looking forward to. If there are challenges and we are not able to do the exam by the electronic means, that's another issue, because CXC was looking at the capacity of each of the islands if they could do this e-testing. And if we are already having a big challenge in setting up e-learning just from a home to wherever the information is coming from.
Robinson said he also believes e-learning is the way to go moving forward, and while it might be starting a little too late and will be challenging, teachers will eventually adopt with the new teaching methods.
Yeah, we use the platform now. After a while, the teachers and the students and the parents would be able to develop competency and master the skills, because I think that is the main challenge. Master the skills related to e-learning, e-teaching. We have to deal with the parents, we have to deal with the students, we have to prepare the students how to respond, and also the teachers. Teachers have to be comfortable with the platform. And I understand that some of the information, some of the links are not really within our context. So that is another, in terms of the content. So that's another challenge for our teachers now to go and modify them and contextualize them. But we do appreciate the effort in getting these links.
And Minister of Education Sinclair Jimmy Prince said that a situation that has been created by the COVID-19 pandemic may be the worst that the local education sector has ever experienced. Minister Prince was speaking on the WeFM on Sunday, April 19th, about measures that are being put in place for schools which have been out of session since last month.
We're going through a very trying period. I think the education sector is hit very, very hard. Not only because we have closed schools, but equally because the people who are in charge of students are themselves affected.
Yes.
Maybe in areas where they are not able to financially sustain themselves and their wards, and so the students are hit doubly hard. Mm-hmm. You also have the teachers who are having problems. So the sector itself, in a way, has to take care of itself, even though the general, as a collective, the government is pushing a lot of work within the education sector. It seems to me, Tijan, that teachers and parents, the students themselves, have to do a lot of creative work, a lot of innovation.
Minister Prince said that a number of teachers have been trained in the use of technology with support from the Secondary Principal Association and the University of the West Indies. The Education Minister, however, noted that while some teachers have embraced the training and e-learning, he detects a general phobia for technology in education among teachers, not only here in SVG, but across the Caribbean.
When there is, I detect it in the last 4 years that I've been in this seat, I detect a general phobia for technology in education among teachers. There's some who embrace it, but I think, and it's across the Caribbean, not St. Vincent Grenadines alone.
Across the world, sir.
Yeah, well, okay. So, and this COVID has come at this time when we haven't even gotten over that phobia, and makes things even more difficult. And you would think that this new generation of teachers, who some of them were born, I think, within the technology era, that they themselves would feel at home with the technology. But I don't see that happening at all. There's some schools, of course, they have people who are really into it. But then I see, particularly the primary schools, you have a problem where the teachers seem not to want to go that way. They prefer the old way.
Minister Prince thanked the schools, which he said have been trying very hard to deal with the new situation in respect to the teaching modalities.
Because people, whatever happens today would affect them tomorrow, metaphorically. So I think that let me thank all the schools who have been trying very hard to deal with this situation, because it is a new situation all around, new with respect to the teaching modalities, new with respect to the use of the technology, new with respect to the mindsets and what's happening. I don't think that the education sector has been affected this way. Well, in my lifetime, maybe since Soufriere, but I don't even think that Soufriere was as bad as this.
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said that several cruise lines have already contacted him, as well as the Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Port Authority, Bishop John, to discuss the return of Ascension sailors amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. While noting that his government is happy to play a part in bringing home the sailors, the Prime Minister, who was speaking on the WFM Views and Issues program on Sunday, however, noted that sufficient accommodation will be a challenge.
People also get in touch with me, and Bishop and I are working closely too with the Chief Medical Officer and Simone Keyser Beach, and the Medical Officer of Health, Roger Duncan, who turned out to be two fantastic professionals. Well, I know they were fantastic before, but they really measured up at this moment. I received information from a worker from Norwegian, but Norwegian has not formally been in touch with us. And I have the address of a particular point person to touch base with Norwegian. We have a lot of people out there, and as I said, the policy of the government is that citizenship counts for something. It must count for something.
The Prime Minister said all citizens who are interested in coming home at this time will have to follow protocols, including the sailors, who should be tested before they arrived in SVG and quarantined for a period of 21 days, with expenses paid by respective cruise line operators.
Among the protocols, those who have been on the cruise ships, even though they have been now on cruise ships for a long period of time, and it is likely that most of them would be, or probably all of them, would not have any symptoms. But we know from our experience that if you're from a group which is a higher risk than other areas, that if you're asymptomatic, on the basis of some testing which we had done, that 10% of that number may, and not say will be, may, an asymptomatic group, may be positive.
Dr. Gonsalves also noted that 30 construction workers in the British Virgin Islands are also trying to return home, but the protocols for these workers will differ from those coming from cruise ships.
Of persons from BVI, there are 30 construction workers in BVI who want to come home, and they're chartering either they individually or the company with whom they've been working, which they had been working, Charter One Caribbean, to bring I think 30 of them. But what we need their health status. We need to know whether they have been checked, whether they have been tested for COVID, or whether they have been associated with anybody who had COVID. We're not asking those from the BVI to do the rapid test. Because BVI is a low-risk area. I think 3 persons in the whole of the BVI that they have tested positive.
As this country continues to experience drought conditions, the leeward side has been bombarded with bushfires, putting life and properties at risk. In light of this threat, the Forestry Services Department is making a further appeal to the general public to desist from lighting bushfires at this time. Communities such as Bilal, Lomans, Edinburgh and Clare Valley have seen bushfires in recent times, some of which were said to be directly in the path of houses and other infrastructures. Speaking with the Ministry of Agriculture's Communication Unit, Forestry Education Officer Melissa Jackson said bush and forest fires continue to be a problem, and they have seen an increase in these fires.
Especially during the dry season, persons like to light fires. For whatever reasons, for hunting, for clearing of lands. And we've been seeing that this has been an issue for us throughout the years, where a lot of our mountainsides have been left burnt, left exposed to erosion, left exposed to all the elements that can happen when you leave an area bare. Specifically in the leeward side of the island, we've been seeing an increase in forest fires for this year. Right across from the forestry's headquarters, overlooking the Camden Park to Kittels area, vast majority of the mountain areas have been burnt. Right, leaving exposed to erosion, leaving us exposed to flooding if there are rains, leaving the persons who are in the close areas to be prone to landslides, etc.
Jackson said protecting the environment is the responsibility of everyone and called on Vincentians to take care of it.
We have instances where utility poles have been damaged by roadside fires. Right? Fires destroy the natural ecosystem of our environment. The wildlife are being affected. Our water quality and quantity has been affected. If we notice, we have been having issues where the rivers been giving us less and less water, but we have to resort to rationing of water. If we put one on one together, we'll see that they are connected, right? Protecting the environment is all of us issue. It's an issue that is required for all of us to take charge of, right? Forest fires are detrimental to our health, to our properties, to the environment.
The Forestry Education Officer appealed to the general public to be responsible in their action.
Asking persons to desist from lighting fires, especially fires in areas where they are not being mandated. If you light a fire, you're supposed to make sure that this fire has been out before you leave it. For clearing lands for whatever purpose, agricultural reasons, for construction, you are to make sure that your fires are properly out before you leave that area.
Local farmers and other persons who are seeking to transition from tourism to agriculture are expected to receive assistance from the government. Speaking from the geese shed this week, where a large amount of agricultural products were being prepared to be shipped to Barbados, Minister of Agriculture Supporter Caesar highlighted what persons involved in the agriculture sector can look forward to, particularly those involved with animal production.
And over the course of the upcoming weeks, we are going to see the unfolding of a $12 million stimulus package. The government took a stimulus package to the Parliament. There were debates, and the livestock subsector is going to benefit. We have allocated some 2,000 goats and sheep, 1,000 pigs, 200 calves to be distributed to persons who are in livestock production. There will be assistance for persons who are into poultry production.
Minister Caesar said the government's stimulus package also provides support for persons to enter the agriculture sector.
I also want to recognize the work of the banana and plantain farmers. Those farmers also would benefit from the stimulus package, and there is a $1.5 million allocated to young persons, to persons who are into agro-processing, and the persons who have been displaced from the tourism sector, who want to get into different forms of agribusinesses, to be able to come and to get finance for startup, because the capital is of prime importance.
One of the bright areas of the agriculture sector in recent times is the production of eggs, and Minister Caesar gave an update as it relates to the payment to farmers.
And I again want to recognize the hard work and the diligence of those persons who are into the production of eggs. We can recall over Christmas 2019 and the early months of 2020, we were able to become totally self-sufficient in the production of eggs, and the government purchased some $120,000 worth of eggs from the farmers. I'm advised by the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture that 95% of the farmers have been paid, and approximately the following 5% remaining, they're having an issue whereby they have to have the approval of the tenders board, and that process is in place and is being followed and adhered to, and those farmers will be paid in due course.
With persons spending more time online in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the RSVG police force is warning against unproductive use of the internet. Corporal Sion Shoy said there's been an increase in cyber-related offences and reminded persons of the Cybercrime Act.
We see that there is an increase in cyber reports, mainly cyberbullying, sexual harassment by electronic communication, violation of privacy, and libel by electronic communication. These four, we are seeing a lot of reports being coming in because persons are at home and they want to make someone feel little. And as we advise, the Cybercrime Act of 2016 are here to protect us and you and every one of us in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because there are penalties, as I said, for every action there are consequences. And we advise persons to desist from posting statement images of anyone on social media website, if it's WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, name it. Because the laws are there to protect every one of us. And the law will be there to protect you also. So we advise you to not and desist from posting material, images, conversation of persons that are libelous, make someone feel distressed or intimidated. So we advise the general public in this time.
Hackers are using a number of ways to gain access to personal information, which they can use to blackmail their victim. And Corporal Shoy said in such situation, it is important to seek help quickly.
First thing, when you have blackmail emails that come to you that is suspicious, and these happen because you're really being vulnerable at some stage with a device that you use, maybe at an internet cafe or forum that is not secure on a wireless network. So person may get personal information there. If someone threatens you that, okay, they have this information of you and they want X or Y, it is best to come to the law enforcement, especially the IT department, or some person of knowledge in that field to verify the source or to know if it's really authentic or not. Because you don't want to, long as you start to pay someone, you will never stop. So we advise person, come to the specialist, person in the technical field. It may not be the police or law enforcement at the time, but at the time we advise you seek additional advice before you make a decision as it relates to you being hacked or you being violated as it relates to cyber-related offenses.